What on earth is going on in New Orleans? What is good, YouTube? Dropping dimes back at it again with another video. First one in a long time, actually, and I'm already circling back to the Pelicans. I made a video during the off season about the Pelicans, um, and my concerns on them then, and I think a lot of it is still valid to this day. And as a Pelicans fan right now, Uh, it sucks, to be honest. We're really down bad. Um, and I personally don't know what the hell this team does to move on from this point. Um, I do want to get it out of the way first and foremost. Everyone knows it. The injuries, man. The Pelicans, no one on the team can apparently stay healthy to save their life. Um, Zion's missed 2 games, I believe, due to personal reasons. And I think one was rest against the Pistons. CJ McCollum is now missed full 3 or 4 due to his collapsed lung. Hope he gets better from that. Brandon Ingram had left knee tendonitis. Herbert Jones has been out for 3. I think he'll be coming up on 4 if he doesn't play. So he's been missing for a while as well. Trey Murphy has yet to see the floor yet, and he won't be for a while still due to his injury. Jose has been out and hasn't got to run yet. Najee Marshall finally just came back. Um, is that everyone? All the major ones at least. Larry Nance Jr.'s missed some time. He's about to miss more time. The Pelicans just cannot stay healthy, and that is my problem with them though. Is everyone's always saying, well, once the Pelicans finally are able to get healthy, we have yet to see what this team looks like, and that is the problem. Like it does not feel like we will ever get a moment where the whole team is healthy for 10 plus games in a row, which is sad and pathetic, quite honestly. But what, like, what are we gonna do about that? Like, there's nothing to do, and it doesn't feel like it's ever gonna happen, which is crazy to me. But that leads to the question: are there any changes that are needed? Like, I don't know. We'll have to see. Because currently, I think you wait it out until Trey Murphy's injury. He gets back, it's Pelicans, so I could see him getting back like by March. The medical staff always be lying. But I think he's supposed to be back by January, February-ish, which, God, feels like so long and so far away. But if you can stay afloat until he comes back, I think that's key. Obviously, we hope CJ comes back as quick as he can. We know he's obviously had the issue with the collapse lung before, but I think he's been really big for the Pelicans this season, oddly enough, because I did not like him whatsoever last year. Um, but first thing I want to get into, actually, before going into the team around them, is the 2 stars, Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram. They both had stretches last year and the year before where they thrived on their own. The Pelicans were the 1 seed at one point when Zion was healthy and Brandon Ingram was out. The year before, Brandon Ingram took the Pelicans to the playoffs and pushed the Suns to 6 games. So they've both seen success on their own, but we have yet to see them thrive together. And they have been both decently healthy to start the year. Granted, it's only been 10 games, so that really means nothing to me. They, like I said, they could stay healthy for a while, miss a few games here or there. Obviously, we're that's fine. I'd rather them miss 1 or 2 games here or there than, with Zion the whole season, due to a hamstring injury. Um, and yes, they are both healthy right now, but they are missing a lot of people. CJ's out, Trey Murphy's out, Herb Jones is out. Just with those two, you're missing just with CJ and Trey, you're missing about 35 points per game. Last year stats, obviously. Um, but I don't think that's good enough of an excuse now that you have your two quote unquote star players. And Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram have both been equally as disappointing. And I think, I think too, um, I think part of that is overblown for some of them, but I also think it's like needed. Um, they're just they have not looked good, which sucks. Um, you know, they both have shown major flaws in their game, I guess is a good way to put it. Um, and I expect them to get better this year. Like they're playing really poor right now, which is why I suspect that they will, get back to what we'd expect from them. Like Brandon Ingram is shooting 21% on threes this season. Terrible. And while I don't think he is the shooter he once was, especially from three, mid range, he's killing this season. He's doing fantastic, but we expect that at this point. But 21% from three, terrible. Like, I'd at least like you to be, if you're gonna be a mid range killer, I'd at least like to see you shoot 35%, you know? And with Zion, he, him and Zion just have not looked good on the court together. And part of that, I do believe, is coaching, but I also believe that's personnel. I'll touch more on that later because I just want to continue to focus on the two of them right now. This is probably coming out as more of a rant. It's at least it sounds like it's probably coming out as more of a rant. But Zion, he needs to like I said, first of all, he needs better personnel around him, but he himself also needs to be better. Defensively, he has looked horrendous. He does not get back. He is slow. He is might be the slowest person I've ever seen laterally. He gets picked on defensively. His playmaking has been subpar. Um, a lot of the time he just ducks his head and tries to get to the basket, and that's not a recipe to succeed. You can't just, you know, attack two to three people and not look to kick out, take the contested layup. Maybe he gets the offensive rebound, maybe he just makes it. He's a great finisher. So you're not going to be completely upset with him taking that shot because it's all layups, close shots, whatnot. But at the end of the day, even though the Pelicans struggle to score from the 3 point line, I'd rather an open three or some ball movement rather than contested layups and consistently contested layups and whatnot. And it just seems a little too, it looks a little too forced. Um, and that's not even mentioning Brandon Ingram yet. Um, the turnovers are higher than you would hope, and the ISOs are higher than you would hope. And it just, between the two of them, it just doesn't look good together. And it's the same thing with Brandon Ingram. He's looked okay when he's actually got to the basket this year. He hasn't done it a lot, but when he does, he finishes quite well. And he's obviously always going to be great from the mid range. But his turnovers have been high too. He takes contested mid range. He just takes tough shots. And that's not even the threes, because he's been bad on his threes. But for the most part, I feel like he's been decently open from three this year. Um, and like I said, I think his 3 point shooting will level out eventually, but we need it to look better now. And he's taking a lot, which I am okay with, because previously in past seasons he hasn't a lot. But at some point we need them to fall. It just, I don't know if it's a mechanic thing. He looks a little uncomfortable shooting threes. Maybe he's just in his head right now. Who knows? But the the 3 point shooting has not been there, and the playmaking has been disappointing. Not terrible, but as someone who I believe is one of the best point forwards in the league in Brandon Ingram, turnovers have been too high, and I don't want to say assists have been too low because there's a lot more to playmaking than just assists, obviously, but it hasn't looked as good as it should be. And I think part of that is because the ball movement hasn't been there, and maybe that's because CJ's not there. They're not used to each other in this whole starting lineup since Dyson Daniels and Jordan Hawkins have been the main forces. They've been starting games, which they're arguably not even that deserving of not heavy rotation minutes. I don't want to say they don't deserve a roster, not a roster spot, but spot in the rotation. But it's bad when you're starting players that shouldn't even be heavily in the rotation. And again, obviously that's injuries, but at the same time, the personnel out there is not good to support the two stars. But the one last thing I wanted to touch on before I transition over to complaining about the lackluster bench is Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson is just intensity. They always, especially when the game starts to, they start to lose a lead, whatever, it feels like their motivation isn't there. They Zion, a lot of the time, he doesn't get back on defense, and sometimes that'll lead into an open dunk, which is cool, but I'd rather the team not be playing 4-on-5. And, just defensively, there are slow rotations, the communication's not always there, and they're just, like I said, especially with Zion, they're slow-footed. But not even just that, the rebounding. Zion Williamson arguably should be a guy that could get, at his peak, you would hope he would be able to get 10 rebounds per game. Right now, I don't have the exact numbers with me, but he does not. Unless it's an offensive, like if he put the energy into defensive rebounding that he puts on offensive rebounding off of his misses, he would be averaging 10 boards easily. But that's not the case. He just again, the effort just isn't there. And I'm not gonna scapegoat Brandon Ingram either because he's my guy. His effort, defensive rebounding, boxing out isn't there either. A lot of the times, his guy will come from the crash from the 3-point line. He'll be there, but he just won't be boxing out, looking for his guy to box out to get the rebound. And yeah, sometimes he'll actually get the board, but at the end of the day, if your guy's weaseling around you, getting the board, or it can't all come down to Jonas Valanciunas. And yeah, while on the topic of Jonas Valanciunas, the Pelicans need a new center. Um, one that can space the. No, I don't even want to say that. Because I don't think you can get both of what the Pelicans need for the center, and that is my main concern with this team and where you go from the future. Because I think realistically, if you want this team how it is now to succeed, you need a center like Miles Turner in place of Jonas Valanciunas, someone who's going to space the floor at an elite level, and someone who is going to be a defensive anchor. He's not the greatest rebounder, but if you could get Brandon Ingram and Zion to buy in on the rebounds, I think you're okay. On the defensive glass, if you can get them to buy in, I think you're okay. But I think Miles Turner is an unrealistic option at this point. I think the Pacers kind of have that identity, and if I were the Pacers, I would not be wanting to look to move on from Miles Turner. Another unrealistic option I have, he's not a floor spacer, but Nicholas Claxton. Unless the Nets are looking to blow it up, trade McHale, trade Claxton, I don't see this as a viable option. As much as I would love him, he's gonna be a nice back end, and that's my main thing as well. I think you just need an athletic guy to play center, especially if the Pels have been playing faster. I think you need that. But again, I don't think this is a very realistic option either. But if they could get their hands on Claxton, I think that would be great. Next person I have written down is Brook Lopez. And while he hasn't been great this year, he is your back end defender. He will protect the paint for you. And that's really what the Pelicans need. Just someone to hold down the paint. And I think one problem, and of course, he's obviously historically been a great 3-point shooter. I don't think he's been that great this season. I haven't been paying a lot of attention to the Bucks, to be honest with you. But I think his value defensively comes from playing with someone as great as Giannis, which is my concern with Lopez coming to this team. But at the end of the day, I think with his floor spacing ability, it's better than Jonas Valanciunas still. Another person I have is Nikola Vucevic. He's the same kind of thing as Brook Lopez, the floor spacer without the defense. The only thing is, I feel like with Vucevic, I have him on fantasy, but I don't think he's been scoring a lot from three-point line. Don't quote me on it. I'm not really paying attention to the Bulls like most people aren't. Um, my only concern would be is that it's just Jonas Valanciunas 2.0, which at that point it's like just stick with Jonas. I think he's got 1 year left on his contract. Will they bring him back? I think there was rumors of it, but who knows? The other person, another one I have is down is Mitchell Robinson. I think that would be interesting, but at the end of the day, I don't know if I see the Knicks moving on from him, and especially what the Pels can give up to get him. Like obviously, I don't. I think at that point you'd want to trade Jonas away. Kyra Lewis has been awful. So if you wanted to throw him in there based on, maybe he'll become something, sure. But I don't think he's adding much value to any trade at this point. Wendell Carter, so far to start the season, he hasn't been great. But I think you would hope that he can turn that around because I could imagine with the Magic he's been getting a lot of open looks as well. I think I checked it earlier. I know he's shooting below 30% from three, and the points and rebounds are low-ish. But at the end of the day, I think the idea of being able to have someone space the floor is important because I meant to touch on this with Zion and Bi at the beginning, but they don't play off each other like at all. There's like 2 to 3 games plays a game maybe. Um, it's Zion gets the ball down low, ISOs. Bi gets a screen from Jonas, and that's the thing, because at that point you get the screen from Jonas. Jonas is gonna roll. Zion's already in the dunker spot, but not really active because he's not good off the ball like that. At that point, it's hard to get an open look other than a semi-contested, maybe sometimes open mid-range, or for Brandon Ingram. So, and I think if you have the ability to have a five that's spacing the floor, which is why I think Miles Turner is the most ideal. Again, most unrealistic, but you don't have to run that pick and roll with Jonas. You can run that pick and roll with Zion. But I also think that Zion is just not that great of a pick and roll player. Granted, we haven't seen it a lot, and we haven't seen it be utilized well from Coach Willie Green, who I think the offense in general could just be better. Um, but yeah, we just haven't seen enough of Bi and Zion working together. Like, not even being on the court together. That's one thing. We've seen them historically in small bursts, obviously, but we have not seen them working together on the court at all, which is weird because they're your two-star players, and one's a ball handler esque who's a great playmaker, and one is the most dominant force in the league. Why do they not run together and pick and roll together, pick and pop together? I couldn't tell you because I think you can make it work even with Jonas. Herb has been having a pretty good season. When he had a pretty good start to the season, shooting the ball. He's obviously going to be all NBA level defender. So yeah. Anyways, I got distracted. Wendell Carter, if he, I wouldn't be mad. I'd like to pick up okay floor space. Ideally, good floor spacer, solid defender. Much better than Jonas, more athletic, versatile. He's an underrated playmaker as well. Moving on to the next person. This one, um, out of the realistic options, this one's probably my favorite. I don't know how realistic, because the Timberwolves are really good right now. But Naz Reid. Naz Reid has been really good to start the season off. Um, he'll give you decent floor spacing and an athletic, an athletic. I don't want to say anchor, but a good enough defender to hold down the paint defense significantly better than Jonas. This feels like I'm just like constantly shitting on Jonas, but this is probably my favorite option. Again, I don't really know how, because at the end of the day, the Timberwolves have Cat and Gobert. So you'd think Naz Reid would be expendable, but he's on a good contract. So at the end of the day, I don't really know. This next one I have, Clint Capella. Um, if you want to buy in full time to Oneka, yeah, I could see Capella becoming available, and I think while he's not obviously the floor spacing you need, he is a anchor type defensive player. He's been playing with Trae Young for how many years? You have to be that level of defender to be on that team at the center position, and I don't want to say he's underrated at this point, but I think he is overlooked, is how I'd put it. So yeah, I think the only way that really goes through is if you're looking at Onega becoming the full-time guy, but at the end of the day, um, David Griffin sucks. He won't do anything. The last two I just put down are just kind of um, the most unrealistic. Pascal Siakam and Karl Anthony Towns. The only way I see Karl Anthony, because one, he's making a shit ton of money, but the only way I really see Karl Anthony Towns is if the Timberwolves just end up shitting the bed, which I doubt it because they are playing good right now, really good. And even if they mellow out a little bit, I still think they'll be on track to the point where you can buy into the core that you have right now. And lastly, I think I just mentioned him actually, but Pascal Siakam, um, he's going to give you more of that versatile athletic five, because obviously you'd be running with the five in this situation, which I think can be good, but at the end of the day, you're sacrificing size a little bit. Pascal is still, I think he's like 6'10", 6'9", 6'10", bigger frame, not bigger, but not skinny frame, I guess. And he's ran five before, obviously. So I think you're okay with that, with him being the five next to Zion. Um, and yeah, just for guards, there weren't a lot, and like guards and wings, I put down Buddy Hield, Brogdon, and Caruso, who I think would be, they can space the floor well. Obviously, Buddy's one of the greatest shooters in the league. Reunite him with where he was drafted. Caruso, a fantastic 3-and-D guy. Brogdon, just a sound point guard, can hold it down, Um, and yeah, how does some of this come by? Maybe you have to split up Zion and BI. Like, again, I think you have to wait until you see this team healthy enough. Um, you know, BI, Zion, Trey, CJ, they miss a couple games here and there, sure, but I think you have to give it the chance. And if, you know, Trey Murphy comes back by January, trade deadline is February. And if you're still not looking good at that point once he's finally back, I'm all ears for whether that's blowing it up, retooling, trading Zion, trading BI, send BI to the Pacers, Zion goes to the Knicks. You know, um, because at the end of the day, this team doesn't fit well. They don't defend. They they the ball movement, which I think they try to emphasize, but it doesn't go well. The offense looks stale. There's zero effort defensively, and yeah, that's where the injuries come in. Jose Alvarado specifically, he is the energy guy, and I'm surprised honestly he's been out as long as he has been, because I'm pretty sure they said he'd be likely good to go to start the season. It's now 10 games in and he's still not here. That's the Pelicans medical staff for you, first of all. But he's the life. That he's this team's life. Dyson has shown good progression with his ability to attack the rim, but he still is very flawed offensively. Defensively, he looks great, but offensively, he looks, I don't want to say scared, but not confident at times. Jordan Hawkins, great for a rookie. He's got the confidence that you'd want from your quote unquote 3-point shooter, but he's super inefficient, and that's fine because he's a rookie. But this guy's playing like 20, 30 minutes. Um, that's not a recipe for success. Najee Marshall, borderline not rotation player. Larry Nance Jr. has looked like he should not be a rotational player, and it sucks because I really like Larry Nance Jr., but he doesn't. He makes all the right plays, yet he can't score. He can't do anything. Like he makes all the right reads, but he doesn't do anything with it. So like at the end of the day, it doesn't. You're at that point you're a negative, whether you're playing good defensively or not. With if you're a zero on offense and maybe average defensively, and gives the ability to go small, it doesn't matter. Which is why I think they also need a new backup big as well as starting big. Um, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I like Jeremiah Robinson Earl, but is he really gonna be good enough for you to go small, run the four next to Bi? I don't know. We haven't seen a whole lot of him yet, and he has looked good in the time he's gone, but he's on a two-way contract for a reason. He got cut from the Rockets for a reason. He's not a rotational player, especially on a team fighting for the playoffs. Matt Ryan picked him up off the streets. Been having to get heavy PT because the Pelicans just need floor spacing. Just need someone to shoot the ball. Sabron, Duran Sabron, I don't know, whatever. Should not be getting PT. Period. Kyra Lewis should not be getting PT. Period. These are guys that have had to get heavy rotational minutes. Cody Zeller, he hasn't really played a lot. Either way, he shouldn't be. So keep it that way. The Pelicans just don't have a competent roster right now around their two stars. They're basically it feels like they have a G League squad around them. And again, it's obviously due to injuries, but at what point do we say cut the bullshit? They're never healthy. Split up this duo, start from scratch. I don't know, because they're still a young team. It's just, yeah. I don't know, man. David Griffin, all I know is you got some work to do, bud. Willie Green, you got some work to do. I didn't even really talk about Willie Green, but I don't like. He's not my favorite coach in the world. Offense is still Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram. You guys have to step up, be the leaders you should be, and just be the on-court leaders you should be. CJ McCollum, get healthy. Trey Murphy, we love you. Jose, get healthy. Team, stay healthy. Herb, get healthy. Jeez, healthy, healthy, healthy. But yeah, I, I again, this is kind of like a ramble rant, but at the end of the day, I just want to talk about this team because it has not looked fun so far, and unfortunately for the Pelicans, their time is coming up. But yeah, if you enjoyed my ramble and probably heard my brother screaming in the background, my teenage brother, yes, screaming. Um, but yeah, if you enjoyed this video, or hate the Pelicans as much as I do, feel free to subscribe, give it a like. I'm gonna try to start posting again, but I like to put my videos together more. So this one was kind of just a ramble, and just for me to do it, you know. But yeah, I'd like to start posting again, start talking basketball. I'd like to start a podcast, but I don't want to do it myself and talk by myself. But granted, I've been ranting about the Pelicans for like half an hour, so I guess it doesn't. I guess this free flow. I guess I could do it. you know, I could talk about the Pistons as well. Cade Cunningham, love ya. You gotta be better though. Anyways, if you guys enjoy hoops content, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I'll talk to y'all later. Take care and goodbye.